Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I'm just sitting outside enjoying some coffee. It's a beautiful fall day outside. It's partly cloudy and the sun is shining through the trees and the leaves are falling. It's just such a beautiful fall day in Indianapolis. It's like upper 70s. There's a cool little breeze outside. All my neighbors are outside. My neighbor's across the street. She's working in her garden, and Alex just got home from brunch with a girlfriend and he's upstairs taking a nap with Boo Radley. So I thought, well, I'm just gonna film some videos. So anyway, I cannot believe that it is almost the end of September and it's almost the beginning of October. I feel like, I just said this in a video the other day, maybe yesterday, but it feels like it was just yesterday that I was like begging for the pool to stay open, and now it's been almost a month since the pool's been closed. So crazy, right? All right, let's get into these Melody Beatty meditations today. I brought both of the books out. Let's actually, you know what? I want to look in the language of letting go at maybe some of the meditations. Let's see what today's is. I read it earlier. It's about money. Let's see what the other ones are that I missed the last couple days. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Let's read this one. Temporary setbacks, September 27th. Sometimes after we begin recovery, things in our life seem to get worse for a time. Our finances, our relationships, or our health may seem to deteriorate. This is temporary. This is a normal part of recovery and healing. It may be the way things will be for a time, but not for long. Keep working at recovery and the trend will reverse. Before too long, things in us will be better than they were before. This time, the foundation will be solid. God, help me trust you in recovery even when I have setbacks. Help me remember that the problems are temporary, and when they are solved, I will be on more solid ground. You know, it's an interesting meditation, and not just about recovery, but I think when we start healing in any aspect of our life, whether, you know, we've gotten out of a relationship that I don't love, and I probably said it from time to time on videos or in my personal life, but I don't love when people say like my relationship failed, because I don't necessarily believe that. You know, I feel that relationships, like we have really great times and then maybe not such great times, and then we, you know, both people stop putting in as much effort and then the relationship kind of falls apart. It doesn't mean that the entire relationship was a failure, you know? But I think that for many of us that have gotten out of a relationship that we're either heartbroken over, or it wasn't our choice, or it was our choice and we don't know how to move through that pain and to, you know, find new lives, or whether it's, you know, graduating from college and starting a job, or whether it's finding a new career or moving across country, or whatever the transition is in our lives, right? Whatever the healing process is that we're going through, and in many times that's recovery. There can be setbacks in the road. I remember when I got sober, and you know, I've shared this a lot in videos. Plane going overhead. Always a plane going overhead in Indiana, right? This is like a helicopter. Anyway, oh, it is a helicopter. I've shared this many times in videos, but you know, I got into a relationship like a week after I got out of treatment, and then after that one fell apart, I got right into another relationship, and that was with my boyfriend Todd, who I shared recently in a vlog and talked about. I think it was I can't remember what channel I did that, talked about him on there, but he passed away a few years ago, probably like 7 or 8 years ago now. And I wasn't aware of it when he passed away. I found out about it from his Facebook page, but he and I dated for a couple months. He was always kind of the person that I thought I would ultimately end up with. He was kind of crazy curly hair, kind of hippie-ish beatnik, you know, piercing on his eye, played bass guitar, wrote songs, was an artist. Like, I don't know, he just, forever I always thought that I would end up with him. And then later in life, when we kind of like connected again, his life became very filled with things that didn't align with mine, and so I ended up, you know, kind of like distancing myself from that whole situation, which is very sad. And then he ended up passing away several years after that, and we had kind of like lost touch with each other. But, you know, I think about that relationship, and then I got out of that relationship, and it was because he wanted to move to Bloomington, Indiana to go to IU, and he was like, I just want to move down there, you know, we're both young, I want to move down there and be able to date, and I don't want to be in this long-term relationship. And I was like, hey, listen, I totally get it, right? Like, do your thing, whatever. And then from there, he moved to San Francisco when he graduated. But I got in 2 relationships very quickly, and then after that, my sponsor said to me, are you ready to do it my way now? Because it's suggested in recovery that you don't get in a relationship for the first year of recovery. And it's mostly because you don't really have anything to give in your first year of recovery to somebody else, and also because it's a time to focus on yourself and really work on yourself and have that foundation. And I'm really happy that my sponsor said that to me after my second, I mean, he said it through the first 2 relationships, but after that second relationship fell apart, he said to me, are you ready to do it my way now? And that was when I took some time and really focused on myself. And I'm really grateful for that, you know? But I can remember getting sober and having conversations with my sponsor that were a couple sponsors and a couple friends I also had that were very similar to conversations that I had with my dad. Like, I can remember when I was like in high school, my dad would say, you and all your friends think that when you turn 18, you're going to win the lottery and live on a beach in Malibu and everything's going to be great, right? And I'd be like, Dad. But I kind of like, I don't know if I envisioned the house in Malibu, but I kind of thought that my life would be great after I graduated from high school, you know? And it's like, oh my God, freedom, right? And I think that was kind of similar to how I was when I got sober. Like, all of my problems, I thought, were related to me, you know, being actively using. Just like when you're in an unhealthy relationship, it's like you think all of your problems are related to that unhealthy relationship or this job that you can't stand, you know, that you're in. You think all your problems are related to that job or where you're living, if I could just get out of this town, whatever it is, right? And then you get out of that relationship, you get out of this job, you know, you get sober, you move across country, or you move to a different city, and what you realize is the grass is not always greener, you know? Not to mean that we should stay in those situations, but just because you get sober, just because you're on this healing journey, just because you get out of these unhealthy situations, doesn't necessarily mean your life is going to be perfect. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn, you know? I'm like sober, I'm doing the right things, I'm going to meetings, I'm surrounding myself with healthy people, I'm saying the right things, I'm educating myself by going back to school, I'm working full-time, I'm doing all the things that were asked of me for years that I wasn't doing. And you mean I'm not getting $1 million? You know, you mean that this isn't happening? You mean I'm still having like all these troubles come to me, that like I'm struggling to pay bills, like I'm struggling to do this. Like, I mean, I can remember getting my very first paycheck when I worked in treatment. My first paycheck for working 2 weeks was $412. And I was like, I could have made that like in a couple hours dealing drugs. Like, seriously? Like, I mean, but it also had a different feeling because I was like, wow, like I worked really hard for that money, right? But you think about that in, you know, 1995, $412, which, listen, okay, that wasn't 1950, it was 1994. $412 was not a lot of money, you know, to carry you through. And so I can just remember like really struggling. I mean, we joke today about people eating ramen noodles and whatever. That was my life. Like, that was what I did, you know, and, you know, coffee like was what I drank at home, didn't go out to dinner a lot, things like that, you know. I really struggled. I think sometimes those setbacks, those things that I went through in that time of having friends of mine that I had gotten sober with that passed away, or struggling financially, you know, after that period of time when I started working was when I had a conversation with my dad and I said, I don't want to take any money from you anymore because I need to learn how to stand on my own, and I don't want our relationship based on money. My dad was like, hey, that's fine with me, you know, whatever. And I'm so grateful for that, because my dad and I today have a relationship that's not built on money. And we did very much when I was in high school, you know. And to some degree, my dad would like hold that over my head. I mean, not in like a nasty way, but he would say like, you know, I'm giving you this money and I'm paying for this and I'm paying for that and I'm buying you a car and you can't even do the small things that I'm asking you to do. And so it was this very codependent relationship that was built around finances. And so I'm so happy that that's not the situation today, and hasn't been, you know, since early in my first year of sobriety. I've shared this story before, and this is just telling on myself, and I'm a believer in sharing your truth and telling on yourself. That's what we do, and that's what I've been told to do for years, and it's worked for me. But my first sponsor that I had, that I wasn't really that in love with anyway, he was telling me that if I was going to have this conversation with my dad, is this the mail guy? It is. Oh, he's back. That if I was going to have this relationship with my dad that wasn't going to be built on money, I needed a new car. And that if I was going to have a relationship that wasn't built on money, then I couldn't let my dad help me get a new car, right? Well, I didn't have the financial backing. I didn't have the credit to get a new car. I had no idea how I was going to get back and forth to this job that I had gotten, right? And how I was going to get to meetings and things like that without asking people for rides and whatever. Oh, I'm getting a package! Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. He is so nice. I was like, where were you yesterday? You took the day off? He's like, yeah, I spent the day with my wife and it was a beautiful day. And anyway, I just love my neighborhood and everybody. I just love everything about my neighborhood, and it's something that I wouldn't have appreciated 20 years. You know, it's like, I can remember my mom saying this, like the things that matter in life you don't really appreciate until you're older, and then you have less time to appreciate them, and that is so true. Like that has been the truth of my life. Like, those things that I appreciate the most are things that, and like, my husband is so appreciative of so many things, but I also kind of see that in him because he's, you know, 12 years younger than me. It's like the things that mean a lot to me, like, he doesn't get that today. But it's funny because, like, things that, like, when we first started dating that meant a lot to me, like, now those things mean a lot to him, but when we first started dating, they didn't, you know? And so it's like, you can see that happen over time, right? But anyway, so I wanted to set these financial boundaries with my dad and not have him give me money anymore because I didn't want a relationship built on that financial foundation, right? And so my first sponsor said to me, he said, and I wanted a new sponsor anyway, like, he and I just, we didn't really click that well. And so he was like, well, you need to tell your dad that he can't help you get a car and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. So we went out and my dad helped me buy a car. No, my dad bought me a car. So we went out, my dad bought me a car, and then I got a new sponsor. And I told my new sponsor, I was completely honest. I was like, listen, here's the deal. Like, I needed a new car. And he was like, yeah, that was probably not a great move. You should have listened to your sponsor. And he was like, but you're being honest about it now. So this is what we're going to do. You got your car, you got a new sponsor, and now you're going to sit down and you're going to have this conversation with your dad. And I did. And there's been like 2 incidences that my dad has given me money and I've paid him back for that. And so that really changed the direction of our relationship. You know, it really, really changed the direction of our relationship. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think that it was really important for me to listen to kind of what other people said. You know, but there were so many setbacks in my first couple years of sobriety, right? Like, where I thought that life would just be magical and, like, all of a sudden I would have these fantastic relationships and all this would change, and, you know, that I would have this and I would have that. And, like, I mean, I thought alone, like, my relationships with my mom, which that did change, but she got sober 6 months after I did, that would ultimately change, like, overnight. I thought my relationship with my dad and my stepmom, I mean, that trust, like, I really hurt them a lot, trust-wise. I thought that would be rebuilt, like, overnight, and it wasn't. And so that took years to rebuild, of me having to walk the walk, you know? And so I had a lot of setbacks, but I think many of those setbacks, well, first of all, like, struggling financially, and I'm sure those of you out there that are, or those of you that have in the past, you'll understand what I'm saying. Struggling financially, there were times in those moments where I really had to, like, be creative or figure out things or whatever, you know? And I had, like, some of the best times during that time, you know? It wasn't like I wasn't consumed with doing this or going here or having that. Like, I mean, I was consumed with just getting by. And so a really fun night was like, oh, on USA channel, they're going to have a Friday the 13th marathon or something, or a Halloween marathon. So we would all get together and eat popcorn or whatever, you know, or I go to 3 meetings in a day that are completely free other than, you know, a donation of $1 to the basket or something like that, right? Or going out to have coffee with my friends. I mean, my life was very simple. It was very inexpensive at that time. And I think I learned a lot about appreciating things more in life at that time. So most of the setbacks that I've had in my life, I have learned some very valuable lessons from. And I'm not upset about that, you know? It's like, from the mistakes of my life that I've had, I've learned the most. You know, from everything that I've gone through in my life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. I mean, I try to take lessons from everything that I've learned in my life, and I try to look at it. But I did have this mentality, you know, like, I can remember, like, getting out of relationships and being like, oh my God, I'm so glad that's behind me. And then being extremely lonely and being like, oh my God, I missed this about, I was like, I would get out of this relationship that I wanted to get out of, and there were 30 things or 40 things that I missed about that person, right? And it was hard, you know, or, you know, I would change this or change that thinking that it was going to be the dream fix to my life, and then all of a sudden, there's no dream fix, and my life still is, you know, not going the way that I wanted to. And so there were a lot of setbacks. There still are a lot of setbacks in my life today, but what I've realized is that's just kind of life, and you go with it, and you learn the lessons along the way, and you try to take as much of it as you can, you know, and you value that, and you try to grow from that. And that's how I try to look at it for my life today, and I want that for you guys as well. So anyway, that was a great meditation. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.